Welcome back to the channel, all you pure metal fans out there. Today I'm going to do my top 5 STRYPER albums. So let's get right into it. I don't want to waste any time and blither on, and you're going to get impatient and be like, why is this guy not doing what he said he's going to do? Anyway, let's go ahead and start off with in the number 5 position for my top 5 STRYPER albums of all time. And I know that there have been some pretty good albums in the recent decades, but as you'll see, I'm going to probably be pretty much an originalist. So here we go. At number 5 spot, I have Against the Law. Now, obviously, this was a STRYPER album that a lot of people had a big issue with because they believed and thought that they had basically left the Christian faith and that they were completely becoming worldly and that they rejected all of it. I don't think that's the case. I think they kind of wanted to change things up, do things a little differently. I actually like and appreciated the change in style. It got a little heavier, a little more aggressive. I think it's an interesting album. My favorite track probably on this one is All for One. I think that's a really catchy track. And I also like Caught in the Middle. The whole album, Against the Law is good too, and Rock the People. A lot of good tracks. Some of the stuff I'm not really into, like the ballads and things like that. But I think it's a pretty strong album. Like I said, a lot of people had a problem with it. I mean, you may not like it. Maybe it's not in your top 5. But like I said, as I go along here, if you have a different top 5 STRYPER albums, or you have comments about what I'm saying in the video here, go ahead and put it in the comments below, and I'll be glad to interact with you. So, at my number 5 spot in my top 5 STRYPER albums of all time is Against the Law. Coming in at number 4, we have In God We Trust. This one is another one of those albums that I don't know if it was just in the Christian music world or just maybe hard rock or just maybe the music world in general in the late 80s and early 90s. I can just probably speak just specifically about hard rock and metal, that things that I noticed specifically in the Christian metal world and the stuff that I listen to, obviously, is the weakness of some of the weaknesses of In God We Trust are that the record companies and producers and whatnot, whoever the powers were that, the powers that be were in charge, they, you had an extremely highly successful album with To Hell with the Devil, so they thought, well, let's try to use that as a template. Let's try to repeat this, kind of clone it. And that's basically what happened here with this In God We Trust. And I think this one's more polished. There's not a lot of bottom end. I wish there was more bass. There's hardly any low end, and it's overproduced and a little bit too polished for me. But you've got, like I said, if you looked at each song on here, you could kind of say, well, this song is clearly a carbon copy of this other song on To Hell with the Devil. So anyway, I think that the weaknesses are clear on that from my perspective, but this has a pretty good 4th spot for me. This was the time when I was in the Air Force at a young age when this came out, and it was important to me too. So anyway, number 4, In God We Trust. At my number 3 spot, I have Yellow and Black Attack, and not necessarily this one. This was the remix when they added a couple of songs. I think they added Loving You and Reason for the Season to make it a full album instead of an EP. But when I reference this, I'm referring to the album, the original EP, The Yellow and Black Attack. I like that original mix better. I think it's a better mix. And one of the things that stood out to me back then was when I first bought that LP, that was it, a 5 or 6 song EP, Yellowback Intact. And I played that, the distortion sound that they got on the guitar just has a really unique and cool sound. And I was like, wow, how do they get that sound? That's really cool. I've never really heard that before. So that was kind of a real big thing for me. And I think they kind of, when they remixed it for this version of it, I think they kind of took the edge off of it. So that's the number 3 spot for me, is Yellowback Attack. And I have the LP up here somewhere. Anyway, I should have pulled that down. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The original Stryper, the Yellow and Black Attack album that came out in 1984. That's my number 3 spot. At number 2, you might be surprised about this. Number 2, I have To Hell with the Devil. That's could be number 1 with a lot of people. It's probably, I would bet it's their best-selling album. It probably sold more than anything. I know it went multi-platinum. I think it's great. I got it when it came out in 1986. It's classic. It's, by many standards, their best album. This was their peak of popularity, I'm sure. And, not a bad track on it. I used to crank this all the time when I was driving around as a 19-year-old in Southern California, but making everybody else hear it too, So, yeah, my solid number 2 is To Hell with the Devil. And like I said, I don't think there's a bad song on here. They got a bunch of radio play or a bunch of MTV video play with Honestly, and they just blew up on this one. And they were doing stadium tours and stuff at this point. Oh, I've eaten my hair too. That's my number 2. And at number 1, you might have guessed it based on my top 4 and me referring to their first coming, which was the 80s and early 90s. At my number 1 favorite Stryper album of all time is Soldiers Under Command. What a terrific, great album. I mean, this one, I like it better than To Hell with the Devil even. This is another one of those albums that came out when I was probably 19, 20 years old, something like that. And, in that time of life, you're out of high school. And in high school, all you think about in high school is, I can't wait to get out of high school so I don't have to get up and go do this. And I can just have fun, right? And not have any, homework, whatever, schoolwork. You're just burned out. You've been doing it for 12 years. But then you don't realize that when you get out, then, well, what are you going to do? Go to college? Or are you going to get a job? And then you have to work, and you have to get up every morning early and go to work and make money and pay rent and pay bills. So came out right when I had got out of high school. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I think I was doing going to a 2-year college. It was Ventura College in Ventura, California. And I changed majors a couple times because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I then moved. I was living in Ventura, California, Southern California, and my parents had moved up to Fresno for my dad's work. And I was not sure what I wanted to do. So I ended up moving up. I pulled out of Ventura College and moved up to my parents in Fresno, and wasn't sure what I was going to do there. So I went and I enrolled in Fresno City College. Anyway, this is a little bit boring, but and while I was up there in 1985, at this point, early 86, this album came out. And I remember going and buying it at a little record store that was just down the street. I think we were almost in Clovis, on the edge of Fresno, which is irrelevant to all of you if you don't know what the area is like. Anyway, I pulled this out and bought that while I was staying with my parents and going to Fresno City College and still not knowing what I wanted to major in. Then at that point, after buying this, and I listened to it a lot there and thinking about life, what am I going to do? My dad suggested, since he was Army, to go in the military. So that was, this album was really huge to me at that time. I remember just a lot of the songs really touched me. especially like First Love, Together Forever, Together as One, Waiting for a Love That's Real. That one really hit home too. I remember listening to this album on my little, it was, I think I bought it on cassette first, and I listened to it on a cassette deck in my little room there, and just listen to the songs and think about like, wow, I'm 20 years old. What am I going to do with my life? I didn't know what to do. And I was just a young, brand new Christian. So this was like early '86. So I was only a Christian for maybe 4 to 6 months or something. Anyway, I ultimately decided to listen to my dad. Went to the recruiter and ended up picking the Air Force and joined the Air Force. But this album really, really, really was one of those albums, especially along with like some Petra albums and things like that, that I really listened to and would think about the lyrics because it talked about God and, I'm a new Christian, Lord. What do you want me to do with my life? What would you have me do? And professionally, as a profession, will I, do you want me to get married? Do you want me to remain single? Things like that. Anyway, little rabbit trail about my life rather than specifically about the album, but hopefully you can appreciate it. Maybe some of you have a similar story, a similar top five. I know there's some honorable mention. So this is my number one favorite all-time Stryper album. I don't think anything can supplant it. So Soldiers Under Command, favorite album by Stryper. And an honorable mention I'll give to the latest Stryper album, which is Even the Devil Believes. I was really impressed with that one. I think that's the strongest of their last decade resurgence. So we'll give them an honorable mention there. And so that's my top 5 Stryper albums of all time. And I know that they've got several out now. So what do you guys think? Do you have the same top 5, or is your top 5 different? Can you do better than I did? What do you think? It's not really so much about me, it's about what you think. And go ahead and let me know in the comments below your top 5. If you agree, if you disagree, or if you have other comments to say, or go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And until next time, keep it metal, and aloha to you.